You think you can just stand there? Look at me when I speak to you. When I speak to you. You are done here, do you understand? Get out of my kitchen right now! Marcus, stop washing dishes and look at me. Do you know who I am?
I don't, sir, but I suspect you're about to tell me.
Clean it up! You are a disgrace to this kitchen! Get out!
Smash. A tower of ceramic plates hits the floor of Caldwell and Crane Fine Dining at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and the whole kitchen freezes. Every chef, every line cook, every prep hand. All of them turn not toward the broken plates, but toward the young man already on his knees, picking up the pieces with bare hands. His name is Marcus Webb, 23 years old. 6'1", but somehow always managing to make himself smaller. Broad shoulders curved inward like he's spent years learning not to take up too much space. Dark circles under sharp eyes. Hands that are raw, cracked, permanently smelling of industrial dish soap, no matter how many times he scrubs them. He's wearing the uniform of the lowest rung of Caldwell and Crane's operation. A gray rubber apron, non-slip black boots with a hole forming near the left toe. And a hairnet sitting slightly crooked because nobody ever showed him the right way to put it on, and he never thought to ask. Marcus Webb is a dishwasher. He has been a dishwasher at Caldwell and Crane for 8 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. He knows the exact number because he counts, not out of bitterness. Out of discipline. The same reason he wakes up at 5:30 a.m. every morning, even on his days off. The same reason he reads for 2 hours every night after his 12-hour shift, even when his eyes are burning. The same reason he never complains, never calls in sick, never leaves a single dish with even a water spot. He picks up every broken piece with his bare hands because the broom is across the kitchen, and the plates are in the walkway and someone will trip. And that matters to Marcus even when nothing about. Marcus seems to matter to anyone here. Webb, Chef Dominic Reeve, barrels out of the pass-through window, mid-40s, built like someone who used to be athletic and then discovered butter. White's always immaculate because he has never once in 13 years cleaned anything himself. His face is the particular shade of red Marcus has privately cataloged as level 3, not volcanic, pressurized. What in the name of everything I hold sacred was that noise? Marcus stands slowly, broken ceramic in both hands. I'm sorry, Chef. The stack on rack 7 was uneven. My fault. I'll have it cleared in 2 minutes. Dominic stares, then does something worse than yelling. He laughs, short, sharp, designed to carry across the whole kitchen. Your fault. You know what I told my sous chef last week? I said, Yolanda, that boy in the pit is living proof that some people are just built for the bottom. A few people look away. Terrence, prep cook, 6 years, the most decent human being in the building, stares very hard at his cutting board. Marcus doesn't flinch. I'll have the floor clear in 2 minutes. Same tone. Calm, even, like reporting weather. Dominic leans in, lowers his voice to something more personal, more deliberate. You're going to be cleaning floors your whole life, son. This is it for you. Right here on your knees, picking up other people's messes. He gestures at the broken pieces. That's your ceiling. Marcus looks at him for one long, quiet moment. Then almost to himself. Ceilings are interesting. Most people never look up long enough to find out how high they actually go. Dominic blinks. It's not the response he expected. It never is with Marcus. Clean it up, he snaps and walks away. Terrence sidles over with the dustpan, crouches beside Marcus. You good? Always, Marcus says, and means it. The next morning, Priscilla Holt appeared in the kitchen doorway at 8 a.m. with a clipboard and an expression like she'd smelled something. Priscilla was 51, sharp-jawed, Xinyan never moving regardless of chaos level, running Caldwell and Crane with the warm interpersonal style of a very organized military tribunal. Webb. The plate breakage is coming out of the back-of-house budget, and this is your second incident report in 2 months. That means a formal review. Your position here may not be sustainable. What would you like me to do differently, Ms. Holt? She blinked. She'd expected defensiveness. Do your job without breaking things, she said, and left. Terrence appeared at Marcus's shoulder the moment she turned the corner. She's been looking for a reason. She can keep looking, Marcus said, turning on the pre-rinse sprayer. Man, you don't even get mad. How do you not get mad? Marcus considered this. My grandfather used to say, when someone shows you who they are, don't get angry, get informed. You're just collecting data. Terrence stared at him. Your grandfather sounds like a fortune cookie. He was a very wise man. Something passed across Marcus's face, careful, complicated, fond. You want me to put in a word with Dominic, tell him it was an accident? No, Marcus set down a hotel pan. Terrence, in 6 years, have you ever seen Dominic Reeve acknowledge one of his own mistakes? Terrence actually thought about it. No, so why would his opinion of my competence carry any weight? Terrence blinked, then the foghorn laugh. Man, you are weird, I mean that as a compliment. I know you do, Marcus said. Caldwell and Crane Fine Dining was, by every measure that mattered, the restaurant. Not just a restaurant, the restaurant. 6-week wait for a reservation. Butter shaped like architectural models of famous bridges. A sommelier, a severe Frenchman named Gerard, written about in 3 national publications. 62 seats, always full. Tablecloths changed between every service. Walls of exposed brick and dark walnut, lighting the specific temperature of amber that made everyone look like they were being painted by an old master. The restaurant had been founded 11 years ago by a man named Garrison Crane, a name that appeared on the menu, on the front door in brushed brass letters, and almost nowhere else. Because Garrison Crane himself was almost never here. Nobody on staff had met him. Most had only seen the photograph in the entrance hallway, silver-haired, late 50s, holding champagne on opening night, smiling like someone who knew exactly what was coming. That photograph was 11 years old. It had been chosen specifically because it was the least recognizable image of him available. Most things Garrison Crane did were intentional. It was at 6:47 that Wednesday evening that everything began to shift, though nobody recognized it as shifting at the time. Victor Ashby arrived without a reservation, 47 years old. The jaw of a man who had never been told no. A watch on his wrist that the maitre d', Felix, would later look up on his phone and discover retailed for approximately $94,000. CEO of Ashby Capital Group. 2 magazine covers. A yacht that had a smaller boat on it, specifically so he'd have something to arrive in when the yacht itself was too conspicuous. He waved away Felix's explanation about capacity. He told the couple at table 4, the premium corner table, the best seat in the house, to wrap it up because he was taking it. The couple, a doctor and her husband celebrating their anniversary, looked at Felix. Felix looked at Priscilla, who had materialized from nowhere. Priscilla read the quality of Victor's suit and the specific brand of his arrogance with practiced speed. She smiled her chignon-steady smile. Of course, Mr. Ashby. Table 4 will be ready momentarily. The doctor and her husband were moved with a free dessert wine by way of apology. Victor Ashby sat. Ordered the tasting menu with modifications to 4 of 7 courses. Sent back a glass of Sansera because it was half a degree too warm. Conducted loud phone calls between every course. At approximately 8:15, he stood up and walked directly through the kitchen's service door, a door the public was absolutely not supposed to enter, and stood in the middle of the kitchen looking for somewhere quieter to take his call. The kitchen ground to a halt. Priscilla followed him in. Mr. Ashby, I'm so sorry, this area is... Victor waved a hand without looking. He was talking to someone called Bradley about a liquidity position. Then his eyes moved across the kitchen and landed on Marcus. Gray rubber apron, slightly crooked hairnet. Cracked hands working fast and steady through a stack of plates. Victor ended his call. Stared at Marcus with an expression of naked, unfiltered contempt. The kind that doesn't bother disguising itself because it's so practiced it's forgotten it needs to. Hey, he pointed. You work here? Yes, sir, Marcus said. Doing what? Dishwasher, sir. Something in Victor's expression sharpened into a decision. He turned to Priscilla, loud enough for the whole kitchen. This is who you have working in a restaurant that charges what you charge. Then back to Marcus. How much do you make doing that? The kitchen went very quiet. That's between me and my employer, sir, Marcus said. Victor laughed, short, surprised. Okay, I spend more on a single dinner here than you probably make in 2 months. He looked at his watch. Deliberately making sure Marcus saw him look at it. You know that? I don't know your spending habits, sir. Marcus had not stopped washing dishes this entire time. Stop doing that, Victor said. Stop the dishes. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Marcus turned off the sprayer, turned, looked at Victor Ashby with clear, direct, utterly unintimidated eyes. Victor felt something uncomfortable move through his chest. He covered it with volume. Do you know who I am? I don't, sir. But I suspect you're about to tell me. Someone in the kitchen made a sound that immediately became a cough. Victor Ashby, Ashby Capital. I have more money than this entire building is worth. Congratulations, Marcus said simply. You're awfully confident for a dishwasher. And you're awfully interested in a dishwasher, Marcus replied, for a man with $94,000 on his wrist. Dead silence. Victor took a step forward, made his voice dangerous. What did you just say to me? Marcus held his eyes. I said you came in here, you interrupted a working kitchen. You pointed at me in front of my colleagues. You spent 3 minutes discussing my salary. He paused. For a man with your portfolio, that seems like an unusual allocation of time. Victor stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to Priscilla with ice in his voice. I want this person gone from this building before I finish my dessert course. If he's still here when I leave, I will make sure every person I know hears about the quality of your staff. He walked out, 3 seconds of frozen silence. Then Dominic, Webb, break room. Now Marcus dried his hands, looked once at Terence, who stared at him with an expression somewhere between awe and horror. Marcus nodded it's fine and followed Dominic. He did not look like a man who was afraid. He looked like a man who was waiting for something. In the pocket of his gray rubber apron, a phone had begun to vibrate. A call from a contact saved simply as, "G not yet asterisk," Marcus thought. Not yet. The break room at Caldwell and Crane was designed for the minimum legal requirement of comfort. A wobble table, 4 mismatched chairs. A microwave that permanently smelled of someone's 2019 fish lunch. And a motivational poster that said teamwork makes the dream work in a font so aggressively cheerful, it felt like a personal attack after a double shift. Dominic stood across the table from Marcus, arms crossed. Level 3 red, Priscilla stood at the door, clipboard against her chest like a shield. Do you have any idea what you just did out there? Dominic said. Victor Ashby has connections to every major investor, every food critic, every corporate event planner. One phone call and this restaurant gets a reputation that takes years to... Chef! Dominic stopped. Marcus rarely interrupted. It landed harder because of it. Did either of you hear what he said to me, in front of the entire kitchen? Marcus looked between them steady. He asked what I earn. He held up his watch. He told Ms. Holt I was an embarrassment. He paused. I've been spoken to that way before in this building, by people with less money than Victor Ashby and more authority over my employment. I've never responded. Tonight I simply asked a man why he was so interested in a dishwasher. That is the totality of my offense. Priscilla's jaw moved slightly. Uncertainty, the closest it ever got. Dominic uncrossed and recrossed his arms, losing the argument, switching to authority. It doesn't matter what he said. It matters to me, Marcus said quietly. And it should matter to you. If a guest can walk into your kitchen, humiliate a staff member in front of their colleagues, and your response is to threaten that staff member with termination, you've told everyone in that kitchen exactly what they're worth. Word travels, chef, faster than a bad review. Silence. Dominic made his decision, jaw set, eyes flat. You're suspended pending review, effective immediately. Leave your apron at the front desk. Marcus looked at him for a moment, then stood, untied the gray rubber apron, folded it with the same deliberate neatness he brought to stacking dishes. Set it on the table. I'll see myself out, he said. At the door he turned back just once. You have a beautiful restaurant, he said, and he meant it, you could hear it, and a broken kitchen. Those two things can only coexist for so long. He left. Behind him, Dominic stared at the folded apron on the wobbly table. Nobody said anything. Marcus stood in the alley behind Caldwell and Crane, and called back the number saved as G. It rang once. Marcus. The voice was 61 years old, unhurried, carrying the particular weight of absolute authority that doesn't need to announce itself. I got your messages. I heard you've had an interesting evening. How did you? I have eyes in many kitchens, son. Are you all right? I'm fine. You're suspended. Temporarily, I expect. A pause that might have been a laugh. You could have ended this months ago. You've been washing dishes for nearly 9 months in a restaurant you could buy outright with a single wire transfer. I know. Help me understand what you've been learning that was worth 8 months of your life. Marcus looked up at the strip of night sky between the alley walls. People, he said finally, who they are when they think nobody important is watching, who treats the person at the bottom like a human being. Who they become when something goes wrong and there's someone beneath them to blame. He paused. You can't learn that from a boardroom, you have to be in the kitchen. A long quiet. Then Victor Ashby was there tonight. He was. He's been in talks with Priscilla and Dominic for the past 6 weeks, investment talks. He wants to acquire the restaurant, roll it into his hospitality portfolio. A pause that had weight in it. The restaurant is hemorrhaging money, Marcus, despite a full dining room every night. Operational costs, supplier debt, staffing turnover. Priscilla knows, Dominic knows, neither knows that I know. Marcus went still. If Ashby doesn't come through, the restaurant closes. Within 60 days, maybe fewer. A pause. Every person in that kitchen, Terrence, Felix, the prep team, the servers, out of work. Marcus stared at the alley wall. There's a meeting, he said. You wouldn't have called 3 times if there wasn't a meeting. A sound of deep satisfaction. Thursday, Victor Ashby is coming in for a formal acquisition lunch. Just him, Priscilla, Dominic. Closed dining room, their last play, and you want to be there. I'm always there, said Garrison Crane. My name is on the door. The silence between them was the kind that exists between 2 people who know each other well enough to think inside the same pause. Thursday, Marcus said. Get some rest, son. The call ended. Marcus stood in the alley for 1 full minute, running a very long and very detailed calculation. Then he walked home. The 48 hours before Thursday were a slow-motion crisis wearing a tuxedo. Priscilla sourced a replacement produce supplier at emergency rates, 20% premium, and absorbed the cost without telling Dominic where the money came from. Dominic redesigned the menu around what was available, killed his Wagyu centerpiece, replaced it with a duck preparation that was technically excellent but not his best work. He knew it. It kept him up. Felix and the front-of-house team drilled the service sequence until they could run it in their sleep. Position of every glass, timing of every course. Victor Ashby across town told 3 different people he was about to acquire a charming little distressed property and turn it into something actually profitable. He said it with the tone of a man buying a rundown house. To flip. He had not thought about the dishwasher since Tuesday night, which was, as it would turn out, a significant oversight. Thursday, 11:43 a.m. Caldwell and Crane looked the way it only ever looked for the most important occasions. Every tablecloth pressed to a crease sharp enough to cut paper. Every glass polished to solidified light. White ranunculus on the host stand, ordered at considerable expense. Felix at his post in his dry-cleaned, best uniform, $19 he didn't entirely have. Dominic moving through the kitchen, with the contained intensity of a man defusing a bomb. Priscilla walked the dining room 1 final time, adjusting things that didn't need adjusting. A fork moved a millimeter, a napkin repressed. A water glass shifted a 1/4 inch, because moving through a space with purpose was the only way she knew to manage having no good options left. She had not slept. She stood in the center of the empty dining room and looked at it, really looked at it. And for just a moment, under everything, something genuinely sad crossed her face. She had built this room in every way that mattered. 11 years of impossible standards, the right linen supplier, the wrong sommelier, then the right one. A kitchen full of volatile, brilliant, difficult people pointed in roughly the same direction. She loved this restaurant. That was the part she never said out loud. That was the data point nobody collected. Then the door opened. Victor Ashby arrived at 11:57, 3 minutes early, his way of ensuring the other party was always mid-preparation, always receiving him rather than meeting him. He looked around the dining room with the evaluative squint of a man pricing furniture at an estate sale. Nice, he said, with the intonation that means adequate. He sat down without being shown to his chair. The lunch proceeded. The amuse-bouche landed well. The cured salmon received a single nod. Victor asked questions about the financial documents. Priscilla answered them with the practiced skill of someone presenting difficult numbers as opportunities. The revenue was strong. The brand established. The challenges were manageable with the right capital injection. Victor listened, made notes. Asked follow-up questions with the neutrality of someone who has already decided but wants to watch the other party realize it. At approximately 12:40 between courses, he set down his fork. I'll be bringing in my own GM and a new head chef. The existing management structure gets wound down within 60 days of acquisition. He said it the way you might mention a change in parking arrangements. Priscilla went very still. I see. The brand has value, the location has value, the room is good, but the operational approach needs a complete reset. He picked up his water glass. The name stays. The staff for the most part goes clean slate. The kitchen team has considerable what? Not unkindly, simply finally. Priscilla, you're losing money. Your suppliers are pulling credit. Your head chef's two best people are about to leave and he doesn't know you know. You have 60 days of runway, maybe. He set down his glass. I'm not here to negotiate the terms of the rescue. I'm here to tell you the terms and ask if you'd like to accept them. Silence. Felix, at the server station, stared at a point on the wall and did not blink. Terrence stood in the kitchen doorway with a pan he had stopped moving 90 seconds ago. And then the front door of Caldwell and Crane Fine Dining opened. Nobody heard it at first. What made everyone look was not the sound of the door, it was the silence that followed. The specific, weighted silence of someone entering a room who changes it by being in it. Marcus Webb stood in the entrance. But not the Marcus Webb of the gray rubber apron and the crooked hairnet and the cracked hands and the non-slip boots. This Marcus stood 6'1" with his shoulders exactly where they were supposed to be, squared, easy, unhurried. A suit the color of deep charcoal that fit the way expensive things fit when they've been made specifically for the body wearing them. No tie. Top button undone. On his left wrist, not a $94,000 watch. The watch his grandfather had given him, plain and old and the most valuable thing he owned. Shoes that made no sound on the polished floor. His face was the same face. That was the thing people would remark on afterward, that his face hadn't changed. The same clear, direct, unintimidated eyes, the same stillness, the same quality of being precisely where he intended to be. Felix saw him first. Said quietly, involuntarily, Marcus. Victor Ashby looked up. Priscilla turned. Marcus walked toward the table with the unhurried certainty of a man who knows every step he takes is on his own floor. He stopped a few feet away, looked at Victor. Mr. Ashby, he said. We met Tuesday. Victor stared, processing, the face familiar, the voice familiar. But the context so completely different that his brain was doing what brains do when information refuses to fit its assigned category. You're the, Victor started. Dishwasher, Marcus said. Yes. You're dressed differently, Victor said, a profound understatement that made Felix press his lips together very hard. I am, Marcus agreed. Priscilla stood. Marcus, this is a private. I know what it is. He glanced at her not unkindly, but with a precision that stopped her mid-sentence. Please sit down, Priscilla. She sat down before she'd decided to. She would think about that later, the fact that her body knew it before her mind caught up. That the authority in the room had shifted, and something in her simply recognized it. Victor's eyes moved between Marcus and the door. The calculation was visible, not the conclusion, but the process. The moment a man feels the ground change shape under his feet, the kitchen door swung open. And Garrison Crane walked into the dining room of his restaurant. If Marcus's entrance had changed the room, Garrison's rearranged it entirely. He was 61 and moved like someone who has never once had to wonder whether he belonged somewhere. Silver hair, charcoal suit. The ease of a man for whom urgency has become optional because time has always been so reliably abundant. He walked directly to the table, stood beside Marcus, looked at Victor Ashby. Victor, he said. Victor had gone the color of old chalk. Garrison. The word came out smaller than his words usually came out. Careful. I didn't know you were involved. It's my restaurant. My name is on the door, said pleasantly. I'm always involved. A silence that had texture. You two know each other, Priscilla said, reconstructing something from rubble, trying to understand what the original structure had been. Victor and I have crossed paths many times, Garrison said. Most recently, the Meridian Hotel acquisition, 3 years ago. You tried to buy it out from under me. He smiled, entirely genuine and entirely without warmth. I outbid you by 40%. Victor said nothing. Garrison pulled out the chair directly across from Victor and sat. Marcus sat beside his father. Victor Ashby had not survived 47 years by being slow to adapt. He smiled, practiced, warm in the way a very good coat is warm, effective but not alive. Garrison. This is genuinely unexpected. He leaned back. I had no idea you were still hands-on with this property. I'm always watching. Garrison's eyes moved to Marcus. My son has been working in my kitchen for the better part of a year, learning the operation firsthand. As a dishwasher, Victor said slowly. As a dishwasher, said with unbothered ease that made the words land differently than every other time they'd been spoken in that building. As a title, as a choice, as a thing with dignity. Victor looked at Marcus, then back at Garrison, the calculation still running. Tuesday night, Victor said, when I spoke to you in the kitchen, when you asked what I earned, Marcus said. When you held up your watch, when you told Miss Holt you wanted me gone from the building. A pause. Yes, Tuesday. I didn't know who you were, Victor said finally. I know, Marcus said. That's precisely the point. Victor's jaw moved. I apologize if I was. Victor. Garrison's voice was still pleasant, still unhurried. You told my son in front of his colleagues that he was an embarrassment to the restaurant. You used the word asterisk dishwasher the way some people use other words, as a diminishment. A pause. I was aware of all of it by the time Marcus was in the alley. Victor said nothing. Marcus has an MBA from Wharton, Garrison continued. 2 years restructuring hospitality operations across Southeast Asia. 4 languages. He took this job, this specific job at this level, because I asked him to. Because I wanted to know what my restaurant looked like when nobody important was watching. The dining room was completely silent. Terrence had appeared in the kitchen doorway, spatula in hand, not pretending to have a reason to be there. Felix had abandoned professional invisibility entirely. Dominic stood behind Terrence, his face doing the specific work of a man rapidly cataloging every interaction he'd had with Marcus Webb over 8 months, and finding the count uncomfortable. Victor looked at the table, then at Garrison, then at Marcus. What do you want? The businessman's question, direct, stripped of performance. Marcus looked at him. I want to tell you what I learned, he said. What followed was not a negotiation in any form Victor Ashby had previously experienced. Marcus spoke for perhaps 12 minutes. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't produce documents. He didn't use the vocabulary of leverage and acquisition. He talked about Terrence, 6 years of accumulated kitchen knowledge, handling every crisis, every equipment failure. Every ingredient shortage, with a problem-solving that no management consulting could manufacture or replace. He talked about Felix, memorizing the name, dietary restrictions, preferred table, and anniversary date of every regular guest. Not because a manual told him to, because he genuinely cared. He talked about Destiny, the runner, who moved through the dining room during service with spatial awareness, so refined she had never once in 8 months touched a chair or disrupted a table mid-course. He talked about Gerard, the severe Frenchman, who had twice quietly arranged for guests who'd mentioned financial hardship to receive their wine pairings at a significant discount that never appeared on any receipt. Funded out of Gerard's own pocket. These people, Marcus said, are what this restaurant is, not the tablecloths, not the brick walls, not the menu. He looked at Victor steadily. Your plan is to clear them out and reset. What you'll own afterward is a room, a very nice room, but a room. Victor was quiet for a long time. The financials don't work, Marcus. Whatever the human capital looks like, the numbers don't work. I know, Marcus said. That's the second thing. He looked at Garrison. Garrison reached into his jacket and produced a single folded document, set it on the table. The outstanding supplier debt is cleared as of this morning, Marcus said. I instructed our accounts team at 6 a.m. He nodded at the document. That's a 12-month operational support agreement, covered by me, structured as a management loan at 0 interest. It gives Priscilla the runway to correct the cash flow issues without distress selling anything, including the restaurant itself. Priscilla made a sound that was not a word. She looked at the document, then at Marcus, then at the document again. The management structure stays, Marcus continued. Priscilla keeps her position. Dominic keeps his kitchen with one condition: every member of the current staff remains employed. He paused. What changes is the operational oversight. I'll be taking an active role. Not as a dishwasher. Felix made a sound at the server station that was also not a word. Victor looked at the document, at Garrison, at Marcus. You're cutting me out, he said. I'm removing the need for you. Those aren't the same thing. You came here because there was a distressed asset available at a discount. There isn't any more. A long pause. Victor Ashby nodded. A different kind of nod. Not the decisive nod of someone dictating terms, but the smaller, deliberate nod of someone absorbing a result they didn't anticipate. He stood. Picked up the acquisition documents Priscilla had spent 3 months preparing, set them back on the table, looked at Marcus. I owe you an apology, he said, quietly. Just to Marcus, though the room was small enough that everyone heard. A genuine one, not a managed one. Tuesday was what I said the way I said it. That wasn't acceptable. Regardless of who you are, Marcus looked at him. I know, he said. Thank you. Victor nodded once more. Said to Garrison, you raised an interesting person, and walked out of Caldwell and Crane Fine Dining. The door closed. Nobody moved for approximately 4 seconds. Then Terrence from the kitchen doorway, okay, I'm sorry, what? And the room broke. Felix sat down heavily in the nearest chair, something he had never done in the dining room during working hours. Priscilla pressed both hands to her face for a moment, and when she took them away her eyes were very bright, and the chignon was, for the first and only time in anyone's memory, very slightly askew. Dominic walked to the center of the dining room and stood there looking at Marcus with an expression doing several things at once. Shame and calculation, and the specific misery of a man counting the cruel things he said, and finding the number higher than he'd like. Marcus, he started, getting the name right this time. You owe me a well-run kitchen, Marcus said, not unkindly. That's the condition. I want you in that kitchen. You're genuinely talented, Dominic. The duck today is the best thing I've tasted in 8 months. And I mean that, but the culture changes. No member of this team gets spoken to the way I was spoken to. By management or by guests. If a guest crosses that line, we address it. If management crosses it, I address it. He paused. Can you work with that? Dominic was quiet. Then, and it cost him something visible, something real, he nodded. Yes, I can work with that. Marcus extended his hand. Dominic shook it. Terrence made a sound in the doorway that was a laugh trying to be a cry, or a cry trying to be a laugh. Genuinely difficult to tell. Marcus turned to Priscilla. She was looking at him with an expression she normally would never have allowed in a professional setting. Open, unguarded, exhausted, and something close to grateful. I need a general manager who actually loves this restaurant, Marcus said. Not someone managing it, someone who loves it. He looked at her steadily. I've watched you for 8 months. You love it. Priscilla was quiet for a moment. I took a wrong turn somewhere, she said, with the money, with how I handled things. With a brief glance toward where Marcus had worked for 8 months, with people. I know, Marcus said. I'm not interested in who you were under pressure. I'm interested in who you are when the pressure is gone. He paused. The pressure is gone now. Priscilla straightened. The chignon somehow re-straightened itself in sympathy. I'll need the supplier contracts reviewed, she said. Her voice was back, competent, precise, but warmer now, like a room open to air for the first time in a long time. Set a meeting for Monday, Marcus said. She nodded, opened her folder, and wrote it down. Garrison sat at the table through all of it, drinking the water Felix had placed in front of him at some point during the preceding events. When the room had settled, Dominic back in his kitchen, Priscilla in her office. Felix resetting the table with the brightness of someone who's just been told the building isn't actually burning. Garrison remained. Marcus sat across from him. They looked at each other. Well, Garrison said. Well, Marcus agreed. 8 months and 27 days. 28 now. It's past midnight technically. Garrison smiled, a real one, full and unhurried. You could have told me about Ashby on Tuesday. The moment you recognized him. I wanted to see what Thursday looked like, who everyone was when they thought it was over. When all that was left was how people behaved. Marcus looked at his hands on the table. You can't learn that from a boardroom. What did you learn? Garrison said. Marcus thought about Terrence with his spatula and his foghorn laugh. Felix memorizing anniversary dates, Gerard funding private wine discounts from his own pocket. Priscilla in the empty dining room at 11:30, adjusting forks that didn't need adjusting because she loved a room nobody had ever asked her if she loved. He thought about Dominic, genuinely, truly talented, and so afraid of being replaceable that he'd turned cruelty into a management style. That the people at the bottom of a hierarchy, Marcus said, are almost never the ones holding it up the least. Garrison looked at his son for a long moment. Then quietly, the way you say the things that matter, your grandfather would have liked that. Marcus looked at the old watch on his wrist. I know, he said. I thought about him every day. The lunch service that afternoon was not on the calendar. But somehow, through Terrence's foghorn voice and Felix's group chat and Destiny's network, that nobody fully understood by 2 o'clock. The entire kitchen team and front of house had found reasons to be in the building at the same time. Marcus sat at the corner table with his father and drank coffee that Felix brought without being asked. He looked around the room at the people in it, and felt for the first time in 8 months and 28 days that the thing he had come to understand was finally, completely understood. A person's worth is not in their watch, not in their title, not in what they wear or what they earn or what floor of the hierarchy they stand on. It is in what they do when nobody important is watching. It is in the dishwasher who refuses, quietly, every single day, to believe that his ceiling is the floor someone else decided to put him on. Caldwell and Crane Fine Dining is currently rated the #1 dining experience in the city for the 3rd consecutive year. Head chef Dominic Reeve won the Regional Culinary Excellence Award. His 4th 6 months later. He now runs a monthly mentorship dinner for junior kitchen staff, free of charge. Terrence was promoted to sous chef. He cried when he got the letter. He will deny this. Felix is now front of house manager. He still memorizes every regular guest's anniversary date. Priscilla Holt eliminated the operational deficit in 4 months. She has not missed a night of sleep since.